What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to be talking about April's best decks to actually play in any regionals or major online events or in-person locals. So without further ado, let's dive into the video and talk about it. So guys, we're going to talk about none other than Mirvamon, aka Chaos Dramon. So with this deck is going to be our number 10 slot this time around. I think the deck is great. It's going to be able to do what it needs to. The ability to have the multiple protection layers that makes your opponent have to now sit against a wall when it's dealing with this boss Digimon is ridiculous. And the ability to de-digivolve on your opponent's Digimon by 3 and then being able to reactivate your Chaos Dramon X's abilities gets ridiculous pretty quickly. I mean, even getting to activate this Mirvamon's when Digivolving effect is nasty because you can trash everything and then basically tuck one with its effect. If you get lucky, you tuck a second, and then when you Digivolve in from Chaos Dramon, you get 3 Digimons off that, and it gets ridiculous pretty quickly. You know, the ability to gain blocker, be a big boy, is ridiculous in some circumstances that your opponent can't just get over quite nicely, and then having Analog Man be able to redirect attacks is just chef's kiss right off the bat. Being able to shut down your opponent's progression is always what you want to do, for sure. Then, let's get into the number 9 pick. Definitely All Force Vidramon, I think, is a really good deck. It hasn't had much top representation as of late, but that just happens sometimes in format. Being able to use, All Force's ability to swing a couple times to restand itself by playing Tamers, and the fact that you can bounce something with All Force Vidramon once and then go into All Force Vidramon X to bounce it a second time, get 2 bodies off the board is extremely well. Comboing it right really does help out. And then Lanamon being able to put under, rookies that might gain some decent inheritable, especially like this Vmon that gains you 1 memory, or the draw Vmon if you have 7 or fewer cards, keeps you in your momentum going, all that good stuff. And then just being able to pop something with Merciful Mode. You can pop 2 things now with Merciful Mode and then bottom deck a bunch of stuff. Take out of their trash, which can help in the Beelzemon matchup, which you want. And then Great Maelstrom, being able to, by placing 1 of your blue Digimon under your other blue Digimon as bottom Digimon, reduce the cost by 3. And then return 1 of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of its owner's deck. You can make this a 6 cost removal, which is really powerful. But you know what Rena does with All Force? They combo, they swing, 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 swing. That's kind of all they want to do. Another deck that just recently started coming out of the woodworks again is Yellow Hybrid. I feel like it never really dies, but finally somebody's cracking the code again and just being able to slam down free Tamers, especially with some of the matchups are just Tamer stuff. So now you can take advantage of them tucking your major Digimon under a Tamer, so that then, let's say your WarGreymon, if you have 3 or more yellow Tamers out, you can tuck Digivolve into a Kazemon or a Zephyrmon, and then boom, you're all automatically back in the races because your effects are now live again. Stuff like that does add up in some occasions, so it's worth taking into account. And, Death X, Venusmon top end, being able to shut down your opponents when Digivolving effects and when attacking effects, especially if you're facing against the Hunter's deck, you can stop them from being able to tuck because it is a when Digivolving effect. That really does shut them down, and being able to have Venusmon up is very vital and important. Then we do have WarGreymon itself. This deck has been doing okay in the format, but it's still one of the more powerful formats. Being able to build a stack that has multi-layer protections and shutting down your opponent from being able to press forwards does help out in some circumstances. And I like the tie more aspect. They went full on 4 ties and then 2 memory setter ties. This is an OTK version where they focuses on applying pressure that way instead of their normal, being able to deal with threats slowly and then apply pressure, but this one wants to deal as much damage as physically possible, using this Greymon to be able to play your 4-drop tie, and then boom, go into this WarGreymon. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 security in 1 turn, which can lead to being a clear-cut win. So definitely keep that in mind if you have 2 of the ties out, plus double WarGreymon into, you know, Metal Greymon X Antibody. You can just win by that means. So worth keeping an eye out on this deck for sure. Then we have Setcon. Setcon is basically a sleeper nowadays, but just because of how many red decks there are, a lot of people kind of shy away from stuff like this. But the deck is still good. It's going to be able to do a lot. And especially with Beelzemon being one of the top contenders, if you can get above their kill threshold and then you can keep yourself alive for a bit, that's going to be vital important, because then you can also Digimon, mill them out, or in the mirror if it ever comes up, if people are playing Setcon. But being able to shut them down using stuff like Flame Hell Scythe, be able to play Maycrack Vicious Mode, you know, all this stuff does add up eventually, and being able to combo in is really nice. You know, got Chaos Degradation, Mimis, Karis, TKs, and Karis, just stuff like this does matter in some circumstances and can set you up pretty nicely. I mean, we are in a tamer. We're almost like back into BT-7 where there's a lot of tamer theme decks. Decks are relying on their tamers more often than not now, and that does add up in a bit. So having Setcon, you can use Death X a little bit more freely, but all in all, I think Setcon is a really good pick into the format just because it's a high ceiling to play, just to know how much memory you're giving your opponent and interacting that way, but also for the fact of that you're now playing in a way that your opponent hates anyway. Most players hate playing against Setcon. They feel like they're hitting a wall just because of all the removal that happens across it. Then we do have Red Hybrid as another option for all those players that like to be aggro. So with the ability of Atomic Inferno, being able to give even your lowest ends more security checks, what you can do is use like Takuya here, go into Burning Gray, that gets plus 2000 DP. This makes it 10. This instantly gives it 13. And if they decide to block, you gain 3 memory. It's a security plus 1. All that good stuff. And it just applies pressure that way and keeps going and going and going. All you do is turbo, 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 and then either blitz Emperor Greymon for game, or use Emperor Greymon with an extra security check. Gravity Crush is really good. It just comes down to understanding the meta. Then we do have Mirva Cross. Do I think playing Jet Mirva is worth it? No. I would just go full on for Mirvamon. To be honest with you, I borrowed the list from one of the tops overseas and stuff like that, but I don't feel like a Jet Mirva is needed. So what we're looking at here is quite useful data here, and I think that's we're number 4 slot, which isn't terrible. So the ability of this deck is to basically set up your tamers, get anything under board, or you just keep applying pressure aggressively, drawing cards, and then you spam out Gravity Crush and Blinding Rays to the point where you drop Mirvamon for free, and then spit out potties that have rush and be able to close out game that way. You know, being able to also give them blocker is not bad. As long as they don't have a way of getting rid of the Mirvamon, you're actually in a good spot, and you just apply pressure that way. You know, Zendro extends your plays, Akari helps you draw, Taiki basically tucks stuff under so that when you do your ×3, you know, ×4 plays, you're all set. And then, you know, you do have ×5 as another closer because he uses up 5 sources. Whereas Digicross, it becomes a free 10, and boom, you're ready to go. So with this, you kind of just play it like a normal Rookie Rush style deck, and then with your top end Mirvamon, you just basically burn up all memory. You don't care about giving your opponent when it comes down to closing game, and then spit them all out right into their security one after another, and then your opponent doesn't have much else to do. You can close out games pretty quickly with the ability of Blinding Ray and Gravity Crush with a Mirvamon. Then we have Blackboard Greymon, actually. This deck is quite powerful for people that are underestimating Blackboard Greymon in this format. Do not. This deck can definitely apply a lot of pressure and keep pace with a lot of players. I think this deck has a lot of strengths that people don't fully comprehend right now because of the ability of having ties and stuff like that. But for the ability of popping your opponent's tamers is quite vital in this format. Being able to stop hunters from doing their shenanigans, being able to stop any deck that's just trying to be annoying, you can slow this down. And also your big body blocking, So you have multiple layers of protection. Beelzemon X really struggles a little bit with that. As long as they don't go completely ham and hit the lottery, lucky sevens across the board, you're actually pretty decently going into it. So Blackboard Greymon definitely being able to pop tamers against hunters and everything like that, really vital. I think being able to have the ways of controlling big bodies is really important. Then you have like Digimon here, just in case for the mirror match or in case of Beelzemon players, especially since they get quite low. You could just use Digimon, mill them all the way out from that 5-piece cards is just really good in my opinion. But all in all, great stuff here. I think this is pretty solid. The deck is kind of just what you expect. But it's really interesting to see them play this Greymon that plays this tie for free. But that's not bad. I mean, free tie play is not a bad call, right? And then we get into our good boy Cross Hunters. So this deck is one of the top contenders because of the ability to use Quartzmon, for sure, being able to lock boards down and just go for ham that way. You know, they're also teching in the purple U because you do play enough purples where it might matter, because Psychmon can actually add one card with save in its name, card text from under one of your tamers to your hand, you know, being able to take purple pieces back. But Gumdramon being able to, when he's played for his Digicross and or even just played in general, tuck a purple, so this becomes from a 2 cost because of Digicross, all of a sudden becomes a, you know, guess what? 1 cost play is really nasty, because then you can go Arrestramon into Superior mode and just really go ham from there. Or you can go Astamon into Quartzmon, really nasty as well. There's just plenty of potential with the deck, and you have Death X's, Old Clock Shop Man, you know, Tigirus, Taikis, Yus, Clockmon, you know, all the good stuff this deck can do is just ridiculous at times. And being able to swing, even if you've already swung prior with an Arrestramon, gets nasty. And then, of course, why wouldn't number 1 be Beelzemon itself? Being able to kill your opponent on 3 when you have 30 cards in trash is ridiculous. If you don't have a big body blocker, there's nothing you can do against that. But just remember, ordering does matter, and because of how things order out, you would be able to deck your opponent out in some cases. So keep that in mind. We do have like Ayamako, you know, to be able to extend play. If your opponent can't kill the Ayamako, you're kind of in this higher end. Your lucky sevens are more likely to hit. You know, just all that good stuff here. I mean, the deck is going to do what it wants to do. You can control board, you can mill yourself out, get to a point where your opponent is going to lose, because you can go into Beelzemon X from warping from an Impmon. And by doing so, now your opponent doesn't have an out to the situation. Some people even tech in X antibody to be able to warp into Beelzemon X, which to some people, that's kind of vital. So definitely take this in account when you guys are planning on playing regionals and any big events, what you kind of expect. I think these are majority of what you're going to expect at locals too. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace!